Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? Happy Sunday. Um, my name is Labria Jones. If you have never met me, I am here to introduce you to a friend, and not just that, introduce you to a way that you can work remotely, make some really good money, learn a new skill, transition into a new space. And it's called instructional design. So, real quick, drop a note in the comments. I'm just waiting for Jill to join, but while she does, drop a note in the comments, yes or no, if you have ever heard of instructional design, if it's something that you've ever heard of. Yes or no, have you heard of instructional design before you saw me post about it? Let me know in the comments. So I've personally never done instructional design, and I had never heard of it until I met my girl Jill, and she'd been doing it. She's been doing it for a while, a long time. Even better though, she's been helping other people move into this space, teaching people how to get into this space, and really unlocking a lifestyle upgrade for people, helping people move into higher paying jobs, and helping people get the flexibility to be able to work from anywhere. And so I'm going to introduce you guys to my girl Jill, and then we'll just go through this conversation. I'm going to ask her some things about instructional design that I know you guys will want to know. But then also feel free to drop your questions in the comments as well, and I'll get those questions bubbled up to my girl Jill. So bringing in my girl Jill. Hey, girl.
Hi. How are you? Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. Nope.
Oh, great.
You're not on mute though. So it may be that you might need to drop and rejoin or connect some headphones or something like that. Somebody said they'd never heard of it until the Quick Commuting Conference and is very interested. Excellent. Yeah, I think we had someone at the Quick Commuting Conference,
What's going on?
of course, and started doing instructional design as
Can
well.
you hear me?
You can hear her? They can hear you, but I can't.
Oh, that's weird.
That's crazy. I can't hear anything you're saying.
You have your
Give
own.
me just a second, guys.
Huh. It's like it looks like my audio's working.
Well, it's not going to work if I can't hear her.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys can hear her, but I need to hear her too. You know what? It might be my speakers. Give me a second.
Okay.
It might be me. It's me. Not y'all. It's me. There we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Thank you guys for solving the mystery. So it's me. I actually had my speaker set as my microphone.
Oh, and it doesn't have the audio out.
I was like, this won't work if I can't hear her. Okay.
Right?
Thank you guys for helping me out there. So real quick, Jill, would you mind introducing yourself to the audience, the people out here, so they know who you are?
Absolutely. So my name is Jill Davidian, and I have been in the instructional design space for about 20 years now. So I have a company called Learning Strategy and Design, and we do two things. One is we help corporations who are looking to train their employees, so create any kind of new hire compliance, any kind of job training, policy, procedure, safety, anything like that. We help them create that training. And then I'm also the founder of Applied Instructional Design Academy, where I teach people how to become instructional designers. So I'm located in Houston, love to travel and love this career because it has allowed me to do that. Now I can't hear you. Oh, there you go.
She loves to travel is almost an understatement. You just posted. Tell people what you just posted about today.
So in about a month, I'm going to be taking my son. So I'm a single mom with a 14-year-old son, and we're going to be going to Africa to 5 countries for about a month. So I feel like I'm back because obviously everybody knows it's been hard to do that the last couple of years. And so those are the kinds of things that I do a lot, is kind of take those month-long, 6-week-long trips in the summertime when my son's out of school. And I've been doing that since I've been working remotely, which started in 2016.
So I just want to let me ask you a question. So you guys going to be traveling for a month? Are you going to be working or no? You taking the time off?
I'm going to be working part of the time. Yeah.
So
I've already told my team, I'm like, there's probably certain countries where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be working from those countries. How the Wi-Fi is going to be, but I will be working throughout.
Yeah. So you're going to be working for the academy for the course, or are you going to be working instructional design contracts
for the academy? Yeah,
the academy.
I don't personally do instructional design anymore. Now we just teach other people how to do it.
Excellent.
But we have people on our team that still do it and all of that. But we have contracts. But I don't personally do the work anymore. I stopped probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, good for you. That's awesome. So now you're like paving the way for other people to do it.
Yeah, let's open the doors for other people to take over.
Right.
I've been there, done that. I've been in this field 20 years.
20 years. Okay. So Jill's been in the field for 20 years doing instructional design. Can you tell everybody what instructional design is?
Yeah. So it's one of those things I still tell, my friends and family still have no idea, even though they've known me forever. Right. So what it is really, you're an expert at designing learning. Like, how do you design good learning experiences? Good, like not the training that a lot of us see out there that's really bad. And so training often gets a bad rap. And so that's really essentially what it is. A lot of it's online now. So there's certain tools that you use to be able to develop e-learning. You've probably taken an e-learning course before and some kind of job that you've had where you've had to click through the screens and take a quiz at the end. It may have been good. It may have not been good, but that's essentially what we do, is how do we create learning that is that really does actually change behavior. You don't have to be an expert at the subject matter that you're creating it in. So instructional designers work in healthcare and oil and gas and finance and banking and property management and government and just you name it. Every single organization trains people, and we can go across those organizations because we work with subject matter experts who give us the content. We're only the experts in the learning side, not the content side. So that's something that and a lot of people ask about, but you learn those tools and then you can create that online learning. And so that's what we do.
Online learning. Okay. So if you've ever gotten a job, you've done online learning before, right? Like, give me a yes in the comments or a thumbs up in the comments if you remember when you onboarded to a company and you had to like go online to take their onboarding, their online course, like their onboarding course, and you had to click through and then you had to answer a question to make sure you were paying attention and all that kind of stuff. Give me a thumbs up if you remember that. Someone designed that, and that was an instructional designer, right? So you guys remember that? Someone designed that. Somebody got paid to design that course for you to, like, the what is it? The annual harassment training we have to take.
Yeah. So a lot of times people think it's, that like you're the one who does that, because a lot of times what everybody takes is the compliance training, right? Everybody takes the boring stuff. We actually do additional things too that are really cool. Like we do a lot of job specific training that doesn't have to be so like legalese heavy and things like that. We do a lot of systems training. Like whenever a company upgrades systems, which is like all the time because technology changes, we have yes, but everybody's taken that.
But that's the only reason I always mention it, right? Because everybody knows. So you're familiar with it. But trust me, like you get to do more than just that. So let's talk about tell us how you got into this field first, and then we'll talk about how other people, because you went a more traditional route.
I got into it a little bit differently than most people are getting into it now. So I actually, so there is a master's program that you can take for instructional design. It is not needed. We can kind of talk about that. Definitely not needed, but it exists. And so back when I was graduating from undergrad, I actually had a degree in economics and didn't have a job. And I was like, what am I going to do now? Started looking at master's programs and happened to come across this program. And one of the things when I was a kid, I always loved like learning and education. And I thought maybe at one point I would be a teacher, but they didn't get paid enough. So I didn't go that route. I learned that early that this was not the direction I wanted to go, but I really loved learning. I also love tech. I actually started out as a computer science major, which was not the tech I wanted because I didn't want to do programming and all those things. I didn't realize that's what it was. So I got out of that, but I really liked technology and those kinds of things outside of like coding. And so when I found this master's for instructional design, I was like, oh, that's interesting because it kind of combines. At that time, they were just getting into online learning. This was back in 2005. 2002. I graduated in 2005. So 2002. And so it was like a big thing. And so I was like, oh, this is really cool. It kind of combines like learning and tech. Like those are two things I really enjoy. So I went ahead and just jumped in and got my master's. And this has been my career, the whole 20 years that I've been working. Mm-hmm. Not the case for like 99% of the people who get into this, because most people, there is no undergrad degree for it. So most people don't start out their career thinking they're going to do this, because it doesn't even exist for them at that point in time when you first go to school. So it's pretty much, so every time I tell people I've been in this career, like from the beginning, like beginning of my career, they're like, oh, that's weird. Because everyone else is a second career. So a lot of people fall into it because they were doing training at their job. Like they were like, because everybody has training, every organization. So they might not have a instructional designer though. So they were tasked with, hey, can you go train these people? You're really good at it. And then you start realizing, oh, I kind of like doing this training thing, like more than my job, maybe. That's my favorite part of the job. And then they get into it that way. Or we have a lot of teachers entering the field because it's education now becoming adult education, right? You go from kids to adults, but it's still education. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of other paths, but yeah, that was my path.
I love that. Thank you for breaking that down. And the reason why I asked you how you got into the field is because I think it's really cool that we live in a time now where it's so easy to learn new skills without having to go to school for it, right?
Yeah.
We came up in a time where anything that you wanted to do professionally, like if you wanted to do it professionally, you needed to go to school for it. And whether that be a trade school or undergraduate, get an undergraduate degree or a graduate degree, like those were the requirements to get a professional and good paying job. And we live in a time now where you can do a boot camp, you can go take a course, you know what I'm saying? And then just prove that you can do the work and you can move into this field. So now that we've talked about how you got into the field, tell me how people are getting to this field nowadays.
Yeah, so now there's a couple of paths. So you can do the traditional, go get your master's, right? Yeah. The only problem with that is that you don't learn the actual practical skills you need. Master's is mostly theory. So you come out of a master's degree still needing to learn more, right? So it's not like, boom, you've got a job. But it is one route. Some people really like traditional education, and there is a place for it, and that's fine. Definitely, it's not required like it is in some fields. There are other routes where you can learn on your own. This is an age where, like Labria said, we didn't have Facebook wasn't around. So the internet was barely around. Like when I started this career. So you can absolutely get out there, pull resources together, all those kinds of things, and kind of cobble it together on your own. There are people who do that. There's also programs. So I have a program that's 9 months long. It's a career development program for this. Other people have programs. There are programs kind of like a boot camp, like if you think about the coding boot camps, but maybe a little bit longer, where you can learn the field as well. And it's like kind of consolidated into the practical skills that you need to learn. So you're not getting like all the master's theory and all those kinds of things. So those are typically, I think, the three routes that people go. They either go through a program like mine, they get traditional masters and probably still go through a program like mine because it doesn't actually teach them what they need, or they just kind of learn it on their own. The one major thing that you need in this field, once you've learned things, of course, is a portfolio.
Yep.
Portfolio is like essential. And so it's usually a website. So usually people use very basic websites, but they put examples of their work. Now people think, oh, well, I'm new to the field. I have no examples. Like what am I going to put on there? I can't show what I've done. Or maybe you did do something, but you can't show it because it's proprietary. You actually can create samples from scratch. And it seems a little awkward at first, but you actually have to create samples. Like that is how you prove what you can do. And it's really cool because you can prove what you can do. Like if you go and try to become if you're like, I'm going to become a nurse now, like that's my next career. How do you prove that you know how to be a nurse? You just can try to talk through it. And, you went to school, you can talk through the interview, but you can't, here's my portfolio of nursing. Like that doesn't exist.
Right.
So it's actually
the Band-Aids I put on kids' knees.
Right. Like you can't really do that. So, this is kind of cool because you have the opportunity to show what you can do. They're actually giving you that opportunity when you don't even, and that gets a lot of people. That's how people get work when they're starting out.
I love that. And I always want to call out though that, I don't think everybody's doing that. Everybody's not creating portfolios. And that's just something that you specifically push people to do and help people work through. And you even review those portfolios in your course.
It's almost a requirement though now.
Yeah.
In the field.
Yeah.
Now, everybody's not doing it because they don't realize that they need it. And a lot of times people struggle to get work, I think, when they don't do it. Yeah. Also, what's happening too is there's a lot of people who have been in the field for as long as I have who never had a portfolio because it really didn't become a thing till like maybe about 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And they're refusing to do it because they're like, oh, I've been in this field too long. I don't have to do it. And then they're out of work. And then they're coming to me like, can you help me get a job? Even though I've been in this field for a while. And I'm like, well, put together a portfolio. Right. No, I don't need to do that. Okay, well, I don't need to tell you then. So a lot of the newer people are coming in and pushing the older people out because of it.
Yeah, but I really wanted to call that out because a lot of people don't realize that they need to put together a portfolio or they might be intimidated with doing it. Right. And I do want to call out that in your bootcamp, in your course, you actually help people put together a portfolio and you review those portfolios for people as well.
I do, absolutely.
So let's talk about who is instructional design good for? Like, what do you need to have and be to be successful in instructional design, or who like is a good fit for instructional design?
Yeah. So you need to love learning because we're in the learning space and we also are constantly learning because, as I said before, you're not a subject matter expert in whatever you're designing training for. So you learn not everything. You're not like, you can't probably do that person's job, but you learn a little bit of a lot of things. I know a little bit of how the banking industry works and some oil and gas and engineering and how you get oil out of the ground. And I mean, we've done all these things. We did a project with the Human Refugee Agency on fraud. So you learn like all these things. You got to enjoy that. You got to enjoy kind of the diversity of change. Everything's changing because you're doing different kinds of trainings at various points. So it's not usually monotonous. Like you have to enjoy, be flexible and able to adapt to changing. Trying to give you something to put up there. Kind of adapt to kind of changing. Be adaptable to change. There you go. And so I think that's important as well. You have to be comfortable to a certain level, I'll explain, with technology. So when I say comfortable with technology, I do not mean that you want to or are comfortable with coding. This is not coding. This is not like sitting in a corner on the computer, like never talking to anyone. It is just being able to, the way I simply describe it is being able to create a PowerPoint. So comfortable with, a decent PowerPoint. It doesn't have to be the most amazing graphically designed thing that you've ever done, but be able to put together, basic software. So that's really important as well because the program that we use is actually like PowerPoint on steroids. And that's what I call it. It literally looks like PowerPoint when you open it. It just has
really,
yeah. It actually has like the menus and everything look like PowerPoint, and it's a slide format, like you're creating slides, but it just has like a whole bunch of different functionality in addition to the basic PowerPoint functionality. And so that's the main software program that we use. Those are kind of the key things. You do not need to have any kind of a master's degree. I technically don't need a bachelor's degree. However, I will say that I've noticed a lot of companies, and this is not really instructional design specific, a lot of times they will put a minimum requirement of a bachelor's degree to work there. And so sometimes the ATS systems will filter you out if you do not have a bachelor's, but master's is not needed. So in anything. And when I say bachelor's, I would say that's preferred. It doesn't have to be an instructional design because that doesn't exist. It's just a bachelor's, like anything.
Yeah.
So you got a degree in anything, you can make this thing work.
Okay. So I want to just kind of reiterate a couple of things that you said. So you mentioned PowerPoint. I know some people were like, oh God, I hate PowerPoint. She didn't say you need to like PowerPoint. She said you need to be able to be comfortable with it. Right. Mm-hmm. Also, if you don't feel like you have PowerPoint skills, you don't have to be a PowerPoint whiz. You got to be comfortable using it. And that's also something you can learn as well, right? PowerPoint, I don't think any of us has ever taken a training in PowerPoint.
Right.
It's something that we figure out on our own. So don't let that deter you or drive you away. The second thing I'd say is, I think it's really cool that every time I ask you this question, because I ask you this question all the time, mm-hmm. What does it take to be successful in this role, or who should be an instructional designer? The things that you mention are not things that it's like, oh, I don't have this kind of background and I don't have the right experience and I don't have the right education. it's really a personality play, right? It's really about, are you willing to learn? Can you adapt to change? You know, are you kind of a self-starter, independent thinker? You know what I'm saying? Like it's not, it's not like, oh, you need to be able to write SQL code, or, oh, you need to be, you know, it's not those things. Everything that you say is really kind of personality plays.
It's pretty open.
Learn how to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're interested in this type of thing, I think it really is about that, and feel like it would be a good fit. There's not a lot of specific qualifications. I mean, pretty much anyone can do this, really. So, I mean, yeah, if it's something that you're interested in.
So along the same lines, like someone asked, is part of the characteristics of the job being engaging and approachable? Let's talk about the actual work, right? What does it look like to work in instructional design? Are you in meetings all day? Is it independent work? Like, break that down for us.
Yeah. So you can obviously work remotely, because that's what we're talking about here, or you can work in an office. Most people are working remotely these days in instructional design. And so you can either work contracts where you just work on one project for like 3 or 4 months, 6 months, a year. Like, there's some defined time period. It could be full-time hours during that time. It could be part-time hours during that time, or you can have a regular full-time job with benefits and all of those kinds of things as well. So that's one thing that's really cool. And I'll talk about the day-to-day, but it's really cool because you have the flexibility to work the way you want to work. There may be times in your life where you're just like, I just want some part-time hours if you have young kids or whatever the case may be. And then there may be times where you want to work full-time, and there may be times when you work full-time plus, because you have some goals and you're like, I want to take a part-time contract plus a full-time job. So there's lots of flexibility. And then as far as the day-to-day, so it's a combination of talking to people, being in meetings. So the meetings consist of like talking to your subject matter experts, because remember I said you're not the subject matter expert. You're talking to the people who know the content. You got to get some things out of them sometimes, or have them review things. So you have meetings with them, you know, where's the project going, project status, those types of things. It's usually not a lot. It's usually maybe, depending on how many projects you're on, because it might be multiple if they're not taking up, you know, all of your time. It could be anywhere from 2 hours a week to maybe 5 to 6 hours a week, but that's really about it. It's usually not, your day-to-day is not meetings. A lot of your day-to-day is going to be on the computer, using the software, coming up with design. So depending on, there's actually two sides of things. It's design and development. So one of the things with instructional designers that's different than just some person who's good at something creating training is that we plan it out. Like, we're learning experts. We're not just like dumping a bunch of things in there. And so if you think about when a house is being built, an architect has to create a blueprint before they build a house. They don't just go start hammering. So those are the kinds of things that we do, is we create our equivalent of blueprints, our designs, which we have specific terms for them. And usually that's like in Word or PowerPoint. And then we use the software to like bring it to life, to actually go and create the thing. And so at any given time, we could be doing either or, depending on if we're in the design or development side. And so a lot of it is working on the computer, but you might be working on a team. So you might have individual conversations with team members, or, you know, or you're just working on your own. So it's kind of it's a combination of people and individual work. It's not like, I think it's not heavy on one or the other, maybe a little more heavy on individual, but there is still interaction with people. And mostly, not always, sometimes you are just behind the scenes, but mostly.
Yeah. I like that you pointed that out. And somebody said side hustle worthy. Yes. You know, something even better, Stacey, both Jill and I know people that will get instructional design jobs and or contracts and stack them things. Like, you have 2 jobs, full-time jobs, or 2 full-time contracts, because it can be very individual work. So it could be a side hustle. It could be your full hustle. It could be a double hustle, whatever.
Whatever you want to do. And that's what I used to do towards the end of when I started working completely remotely and started taking contracts. I would stack the contracts. So I was like, they were all part-time contracts, because they allow you the most flexibility, because they're not thinking you're there for them 40 hours a week. They're like, do you have time on Thursday to meet? Not, here's a meeting on Thursday.
Yeah.
And so I like that. And so, but I would stack them. So I would still have like over 40 hours a week worth of contracts, but it was several, so that nobody was telling me when to work. I just got paid more. So yeah, there's definitely lots of options. You can definitely do it as a side hustle. The only thing I caution with the side hustle is sometimes people think that like they want something that they can learn extremely quickly. Like a side hustle is like, let me start doing it real quick. And so this is it's a career. You can do it on the side, but you still got to learn the career and then you can do it. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much flexibility.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, since we talked about flexibility, let's talk about that a little bit. So how do people get jobs in this field? Well, let's, before we go there, let's hit a little bit on the whole, you can get, you can work full time, or you can be a freelancer or contractor, right? So there's 3 ways to do this, right? So there's employees that hire W-2 folks. And if you feel like you want, I don't like to say stability, so I will say consistency. If you feel like you want some consistency and some health benefits and all that good stuff, you would go work for a W-2 and for an employer and be a W-2 employee. If you want the freedom to just take on clients whenever you want, freelance.
Yep.
That's your jam, right? And you can decide how many clients I want, how much I want to work. Like Jill said, I'm going to take a couple of, part-time clients, and nobody's asking me, nobody's putting meetings on my calendar. They're like, do I have time? Right. And then there's the other concept of, it's kind of under the umbrella of freelancer, which is contracting, where you're working with a company that's giving you business, giving you contracts, right?
Yeah. And even in the contract space, there's a bunch of variations. And so I actually didn't really ever try to go find my own clients. Towards the end, I started having, because I just had relationships. But what I really like about this field is, a lot of times when you get into something where you want flexibility, you're like, I don't want anybody dictating my hours.
Yep.
Most fields, you have to go find your clients to make that happen. Like you're like, okay, I'm just going to do marketing now and I'm going to have my own business. Well, you have to go find those marketing clients who are going to, that you can dictate your own schedule and work with. In instructional design, that's not the case, which is really cool. Contract work, just like W-2 work, can be found on regular job sites. And contract work can be just as flexible. So just because you're in a contract with a company does not mean you're working 40 hours a week. It may, because they exist, but it also may be a part-time contract where they're not dictating your schedule, but you still found the contract on Indeed or LinkedIn. So you didn't have to go down the street and find this business owner that's going to, help you or give you work. And I never felt like I was good at sales. So I would rather get on Indeed or LinkedIn and just apply, even if I'm applying for contracts. And they're all over the place. You just have to mark the contract button and boom, like there's a ton of instructional design contracts that come up of all different like shapes and sizes.
Excellent. So that was going to be my next question. Like, how do people get jobs? How do people get contracts? So you can find jobs on Indeed. I'm sure there's recruiters out there that are in this space.
There are a ton. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'll tell one of the really unique things also about this field that I really like is that usually when you think about recruiters, you think about maybe even getting jobs from outside agencies, not the company recruiting for that position. A lot of times it's recruiters who recruit for multiple positions. They recruit for, they just happen to get an IT position. Now they have an instructional design position. Now they have an HR position. That is one way to get into instructional design, where there's a lot of those recruiters out there. But there's another way that's actually really cool, where there are these big training vendors, and they have all kinds of training contracts, only training contracts, just developing training. They don't do, IT and all these other things. They have pools of instructional designers they work with. And the reason why they don't hire them full time is because projects change. Like sometimes they have a ton, sometimes they don't. So they have a pool, and you get in their pool, and then whenever they have projects, they'll say, hey, who's available?
Yeah.
And then sometimes you can get in multiple. Well, I got multiple pools. A lot of people do that. So then when this one has a project, this one may not, but then this one does. And so you always have work. And they advertise on Indeed and LinkedIn and, all that kind of stuff. You change your LinkedIn profile to be like ready for instructional design, and you got recruiters booming your inbox like all the time. You don't even have to go look for it. And a lot of them are these pools, which is really cool because they recruit you once and now you're in the pool, like going forward.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you do good work the first time.
Awesome. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I love being in a situation where like you're not looking for jobs are looking for you. You know what I mean? I definitely am very lucky in that the company that I work for, I didn't apply for them. I didn't apply for this job. I didn't even know about it. The CEO hit me up and was like, hey, I would like to offer you a job. So best situation to be in if you are looking for work. So tell us a little bit about what a project looks like. How long are projects typically in instructional design?
So it really is all over the place. I would say typical is probably maybe about 6 months or so, but it can be a short project. So it depends on what they're trying to do. It could be one course. They say, hey, we need you to create this one, annual compliance training course.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's it, one course. That would probably take about 3 months. And people think, oh, sometimes people are like, oh, I can, that's quick. No, these things take a long time because you are going through the planning steps. You're not just throwing it together. You're using the software. So one course typically is about 3 months of time to complete.
Okay.
And there's breaks in there because they have to give feedback and all those kinds of things. But they could also come to you and say, hey, we need 5 courses because this is like part of some kind of series of courses. Yeah. Or you could be part of a team where they're creating all kinds of, we had a project where we had 18 courses. It was basically the entire job for these new people coming in out of college. Wow. They were training them, excuse me, for this bank. And the whole curriculum was 18 courses. They took it over a year.
Oh, wow.
But we had to create all 18, and that was multiple people. It wasn't just one person. Yeah. So it could be any length of time. Sometimes big software implementation projects take years. Mm-hmm. So it really varies. Like, it's hard to say.
Yeah. I thank you for breaking that down. And next question, I'm going to ask the question everybody wants to know the answer to. I'm going to ask the question you're all thinking. How much do people make in this field? How much do instructional designers make?
Yeah. So again, we kind of have 2 buckets, right? We have the W-2 full-time job, benefits, bonuses, all those kinds of things bucket. And then we have contract, no benefits bucket. So on the W-2 side, where you have a job, you've got your 401k, you've got your health insurance, you've got all of those typical things that you have, of course, varies with the company. You're usually starting out in instructional design somewhere around the mid 70s. I would say the broader range is probably between like 70 and 80, but most people start in like the mid 70s, kind of creeping up towards 80. That is starting salary. So that's like just entering the field with no experience. It then moves up from there pretty quickly. And so that's on the W-2 side. The contract side.
Before we go there, I really appreciate that you called out all those other things, right? Because this is salary, right? I want people to make sure they're starting to think about total compensation. Total compensation is your salary plus all that other stuff that Jill mentioned, right?
Yep.
The health insurance, the 401k matching, yada, yada, yada. So starting salaries, she's seeing starting salaries for people coming into this is 75K to 80,000. And you said people are moving up the salary.
They move pretty quickly. Yeah, because there's so much demand. We can talk about that too in a minute, but there's a lot of demand in this field. So yeah, people move up pretty quickly. One of the cool things that a lot of companies have, when I was working full time, every single company I had did this when I had a full time job with benefits and all that, is bonuses. So they would have annual bonuses that would usually be a percentage of your salary, and a lot of times it was like 10 to 15%.
Yep.
So that's a good bump in addition to all the other benefits you're getting.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good bump. And of course it's based on performance, but that was like if you had the average performance, like not even the top, but obviously the bottom, maybe you're not even gonna work there anymore, right? But as long as you have your average performance, so that was it. I mean, you can actually get a lot higher than that. And it really depends on where the company's located. Of course, it kind of varies throughout the country. And because it's remote, it doesn't really depend usually on where you're located. It's where the company's located in terms of how much they pay.
Yeah. And I mean, and I'll be honest, it doesn't matter whether you're working remotely or brick and mortar. Different companies pay different pay scales, period.
Yeah.
That's just the way it works.
Yeah. The only thing that matters is if it's local to you, then all of the cost of living is the same. You have to kind of look at cost of living a little differently when you're working remotely. But yeah. And then on the contract side, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so contract, you don't have benefits, but you can make more money. So the way I think about it is I can pay for my own benefits usually. And so right now, excuse me, I've got this cough lingering. So right now the benefits, the rate is around, I would say $40 an hour starting. A lot of people are in that range. And so, but that moves up even quicker. So I know people that have been doing this, like they've been working in the field now for 3, 4, 5 months. Because remember, contracts a lot of times they don't last as long. And they're already up to like $50, $55, $60 an hour.
Wow.
So they might have got their first contract, which might have been 3 or 4 months long, at $40 to $45 an hour, but now they're already up to 55, 60, and they're maybe 3, 6 months into this, like not even a year into this.
Wow.
So it moves quickly.
Yeah.
And so And so I would say like average for the field is probably closer around $60 an hour, but starting out for the first few months is probably around 40 to 45.
Yeah.
And so if you think about how that would equate, because, we're talking about two different things, right? We're talking about per hour rate to annual rate, right? When you kind of equate them, if you double the contract rate, that's about what it would be per year. So if you say 40 to 40, that's about like 80 to 90,000 per year. But remember that you're not getting benefits. So they're kind of almost about equal starting out. And I will say contract quickly gets higher than it quickly outweighs, like you can definitely make six figures pretty easily doing contract. It'll take a little longer to get there doing W-2, but you could get there. So it quickly goes much higher, but they start out kind of similar.
Awesome. So I'm going to just say it again, right? Starting salaries, whether you're a contractor or a W-2, is going to be somewhere around 75 to 85, just depending on, what your hourly rates are, depending on where you are, depending on the company and all those things. That's pretty dope for something that you don't have to go to college for. You know what I'm saying? And to be able to get to six figures within, what would you say, within, a couple years?
If you're doing contract work, you can get there in like a year or less than a year. If you're doing W-2 work, it might take a couple of years.
Yeah. So 1 to 2 years, you're starting out 75 to 85. You do good work, you get good contracts, you work for a good employer. Within 2, maybe 3 years tops, you're already at six figures. Now, I know a lot of teachers have moved into this role because, one of my good friends who's a teacher sat down and was like, no matter how much education I have and no matter how long I do this job, I'm probably never going to hit six figures. And that's crazy. And she was like, and that's crazy. Right. And so she moved out of the classroom and into this field and already hit six figures just like that, just on the move.
Yeah, there are people doing that.
Yeah.
I would like to be a little conservative in my numbers because I know that people are all over the place, but there are 100% there are people doing that. I know somebody who hit six figures. It took her 3 jobs, but she did it all in 1 year. Like literally was like recruited to move. And so we've got several people that have done that before. So yeah, 100% it's possible. And because we were even looking at a lot of times, you see that chart, right? Because teacher salaries are published, right? So we've got people that are like, they're looking at the chart. Like that's what she was doing, right? They're just looking at their. So usually starting salary, a lot of times, depending on the district, a lot of people are like, it's 20 years in as a teacher, depending on your district, maybe not even, maybe it's more than that, to be able to get a starting salary as an instructional designer. And you had to have a specific degree to become a teacher. Most times, not always, sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So a couple of people have asked about, what about people looking to transition from higher education, nurses, teachers? So we talked earlier, there's not really a field that's not a good fit to move into this role. It's really about your personality and if you enjoy learning, right? And if you enjoy, environments that continuously change. You said that earlier, right?
Absolutely.
Can you think of a field that you would just be like, I don't think you can transition from that field into this?
No, it doesn't really matter. There's not a field out there. I mean, we've got people who are software engineers transitioning to this. We've got people who have come from, I've got somebody who even, worked in a restaurant. So I've got somebody, we've got people who, had other types of corporate jobs that were not anything related. We've had, I've actually had nurses. I see that somebody asked about that in the comments. I've had nurses transition. A lot of teachers transition just because it's related to education, right? A lot of times people get into education because they like education, they like learning. So they want to stay in it. But it doesn't mean you have to. Yeah. Higher ed, absolutely. We actually have a good number of people that have come in from higher ed administration, both administration and faculty, higher ed faculty. But yeah, it's higher ed administration is almost one of those, like, if I had to pick a bigger category, there's a lot of people that get in from that as well. Yeah. So, but yeah, pretty much anything, guys.
So I'm gonna just reiterate. She said from waiter to teacher to software developer. Like, doesn't really matter.
You just got to have the determination to create a new career for yourself. Yeah, that's really going to unlock that freedom, and go through with it, right? Like that's really what it is. It's all about, can you actually, do you want it bad enough to be able to change your career? It's really not about what you're coming in from, which is really cool because everyone has the ability to be able to do it.
Someone asked what companies need salaried instructional designers because this seems like a project-based career. I wouldn't say it's a project-based career. We're talking about, so for instance, I'm a project manager, which sounds project-based, but I'm salaried, right? There's always a project for me to work on. So there are companies that are constantly having to update and add on to their training. So I wouldn't, don't take us saying projects to mean that it's not a salary.
Yeah, you can have projects as a salary. Yeah, let me explain a little bit about how it works. So most companies have a training department of some sort. Yeah. It can either be the training department for the whole company, or it might be an HR training department where they really focus on new hire training. I've built up a training department within IT that was really focused on systems training. Sometimes companies have departments that have, like, if it's like, say for example, they have a call center. Maybe there's just one division of their company. That call center has its own training department because they need training constantly. And so some companies have multiple training departments, some have just one. And a lot of times the training needs of that company are filtered through that department. And that department a lot of times has full-time instructional designers who do the work. What happens with the project-based work is either sometimes there are too many projects, like let's say they have 5 instructional designers, but oh man, now we're implementing this huge thing that's going to be happening for a year. We need extra people to help, and we don't want to hire somebody else full-time in addition to the 5 we already have, because it's not forever for that one. But we still have 5 people that we're always giving work to. It's just now we have too much.
Yes.
There are companies that don't have full-time instructional designers and only do it on a project basis, but those are usually small companies. Every Fortune 500 company, and a lot that are even smaller than that, do have training departments where they hire full-time instructional designers. It is not a certain industry. It's like every industry.
Yeah. And I just also say that a lot of companies, yes, we keep talking about internal trainings, but a lot of companies need to train their customers too, right? And train the general public. You mentioned a bank earlier. I know that if I go on my bank's website, I can take all kinds of trainings on different kind of financial things. And so my guess is they've hired instructional designers to create those trainings as well. So people need to they need to train their customers. They need to train the general public. Everybody needs training at this point, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And companies have different philosophies. It's just like anything else. You hear about these companies that start outsourcing, like they were doing something in-house and now they're not. But then some companies are like, no, we're not going to outsource. We're always going to keep things in-house because we don't trust somebody else to do it. It's the same idea here. You can either do it internally, which a lot of companies do, or you can outsource, or you can do both if you have overflow. So it's really about how that company chooses to set their system up. But there's not a one size fits all at all.
Agreed. All right. So someone asked, how has the current, I'm going to ask this question, and then I'm going to ask you to just kind of give us an overview of your course, because I want to do that before we hit the hour. But how has the current economy impacted the instructional design industry, or has it?
So it's going up right now, like crazy. I don't feel, so like I said, I've been in this field for 20 years. I was in it in 2008 when all of that happened. Back then with the recession, I've been in it through, obviously through COVID, all of those kinds of things. It is not slowing down. So COVID accelerated this field. Well, I'll go back in 2008, when I actually moved states back then to get a new job and got a $40,000 signing bonus with my job, which they're not offering anymore. But this field I actually didn't realize that we were in a recession until way after. I had just had a baby. I was like in my own world, and I didn't even, because I had a great job, and it was like I didn't even know what was going on until probably after everybody else did. And then you kind of fast forward to COVID. COVID really accelerated instructional design, because a lot of companies now that were training in person now had to do things online, because there were some remnants of in-person training still happening where they pull their employees into a room. That's no more. Well, now that it's online, you can't stick your best person who knows that topic in front of the room to train people. Now you got to have a professional do it, because who knows the software? Only instructional designers really, or e-learning developers. So they would bring them in to do that, and it accelerated the field. And so in 2020 it was a $250 billion industry. It's set to get to $1 trillion 5 years from that. So we're already like 2 years into that. I don't know what the numbers are currently. It's going like crazy. Part of it, so I told you guys that contract rates are now 40 to 45. 2 years ago, before COVID, it was $35 an hour was starting out. Now I told you that people are getting up to 60. When I was in when I was doing contract work, or actually in my career in general, it took me about 8 years to get up to $60 an hour. Now people are doing it in less than a year because the demand is so high and the supply is low because people who've been doing this for 20 years are not keeping up with their skills because everything's online now. Didn't used to be, remember, like everything's online now. They're falling out of the market. They can't keep up, and new people are coming in, or if they did keep up their skills, they're demanding like way more money.
Yeah.
A lot of companies can't pay that. So it creates this middle market of people where the supply is really low and the demand is super high as more companies realize that they cannot do in-person training anymore. They've got to revamp their entire training that they've been offering for many, many years. And training is something that never goes away. Like no matter how much change happens, even when like the economy goes down and they lay people off, they hire contractors because somebody has to do the work and it's less like liability for them. They still have to train people. Like it still has to happen. That can't stop. You maybe even have to train them more because you have to train them in a different way because now less people are doing more jobs.
Yeah.
So it never stops. There's always changes going on. So yeah, great industry to get in right now. Also, you can do it in any industry, right? So finance not doing good. Move to another one. When oil and gas was crashing in Houston, because I was working in oil and gas, just went a different way. Hospitality and all, travel and all that was crashing with COVID. Go a different way, like because every organization trains people. So just find one, So my favorite phrase when we have like a downturn in the economy and things like that is the money doesn't just dissipate. Like it doesn't just poof. Now there's no money in the economy. Like it just went into thin air. It changes hands.
Yeah.
So just get on the right side of that equation so you can be receiving of the money changing hands and not giving it away, right? Like, but it doesn't just disappear. It's still here. It's just who's going to get it.
Yep. All right. So tell us a little bit about, one of the reasons why we're here introducing people to instructional design is because you are doing a 1-week boot camp that starts tomorrow, right?
It does, yes.
So can you tell everybody a little bit about your 1-week mini boot camp? It's completely free. I dropped a link, but I'll drop it again. And I'll put it in the description box too. But can you tell everybody how it works for that 1 week?
Yeah, absolutely. And so it is a 5-day training that we're doing. It's a workshop. It starts tomorrow, and it is going to be, tomorrow, June 13th through the 17th, it is at 5 p.m. Central for about an hour a day. There are recordings. If you can't make 5 p.m. Central, do not worry. Please sign up anyway if you're interested because you can get the recordings. What we're going to be talking about is how do you get into this field, right? We're going to be talking, I know some of you were asking more questions about that. We're going to be talking more about what I just said, but in more detail. What is involved? Like, what do you actually have to do? Again, a little more detail than what I talked about here. What does the software look like? I'm going to be showing you some examples of the things that you create. What are the different types of deliverables we have to create? What are the things that you have to know to be able to go get a job, to be able to walk into an interview and get past that process and get hired? What needs to be in this portfolio that we've been talking about? What do those even look like? All of these things we're going to be talking about this week. We're going to be talking more about salary. We actually have a whole day for that on Friday. Ooh. And we'll be interviewing some people.
Friday is the money day, huh?
Money day, yes. And we're going to be interviewing people also who have made that transition. So have come from higher ed. Some people are asking more questions about coming from higher ed. We'll be talking to somebody who transitioned from higher ed into instructional design. We'll be talking about to some teachers who transition. We'll be talking to a software engineer who transitioned. We've got some other corporate folks, so different, coming from different careers to see how they were able to make it happen.
That's exciting. So again, love this. What I love about it is you get to kind of like really get, it's like a campus visit, right? It's like a campus visit because you have a more in-depth program that helps people get into this role, which I'm going to go all the way back to what I said at the beginning of this. We now live in a time where you can change careers and increase your salary significantly without having to go back to school for it, right? And so that's one of the things I love about the flexibility of the workspace right now and today. As long as you can learn the field and as long as you can prove that you can do the work by, like Jill said, creating a portfolio, you can move into a whole different career. People are not stuck. You're not stuck working for the government. You're not stuck working as a teacher. You're not stuck working in restaurants. You're not stuck on customer service calls. Like, you are not stuck where you are. You can always learn new skills and completely change the game for yourself. And this is a great field to do that. So in there, you're going to talk more about the course as well, but you want to give people like a quick tidbit about what the course is that you offer as well?
Yeah, so my program is 9 months long. And so we really go into depth on learning the practical skills. We don't learn, there's no fluff. It's not the stuff that sounds good. It's the stuff that you actually need to be successful in the field. You learn software tools that you need to use. You learn how to create the deliverables we need to create. You learn how to work with subject matter experts, all of those kinds of things. We actually have a step-by-step path with feedback along the way. So you're creating your portfolio in the process. So by the time you're done, you've got a portfolio that is ready to go and is hiring manager ready, because throwing a bunch of stuff in your portfolio that nobody has looked at is not hiring manager ready.
Right.
So we give you tons of feedback. You revamp, you make sure that these are the samples that are going to get you hired. We help you with career readiness in terms of your resume, in terms of we do mock interviews. Like, it kind of runs the gamut, and you have support. We have calls each week. Like, there's a lot that it's not just like, hey, go learn this thing and then come back. It's like support as you go through it to get you there.
That's awesome. So I also want to tell people, like, the course is 9 months because you're getting a whole lot in there, right? I also want to kind of call out that it doesn't take 9 months always to get jobs. You've had people get contracts and get jobs while they're taking the course as well.
Absolutely. Right? It really depends, because it is self-paced. It depends on how much time you have each week to dedicate to it. We say that we want you to really get a job around like the 7 or 8 month mark, because we want to support you for a little while in that whole transition and starting that job. So we actually
pretty awesome.
Get a job earlier. And that is if you're dedicating about 5 to 7 hours a week to do this. If you have more time, some people are like, I need a job in 3 months. I'm going to make this my full-time job, or I've got 25 hours a week to do this, or you're unemployed, so you really do have a lot of hours to do it. We do have people who have gotten jobs, a lot of people actually, in 3 to 4 months, but they are definitely accelerating the process to get through the program. So you do not have to wait the full amount of time. That's just like our average.
I love that. It's really cool that you provide support while people are in there starting their jobs, because I know starting a new career in a new field can be super scary. And it's really, really cool that they've got that kind of training wheels, and they've got that support. They've got that group to kind of go back and say, hey guys, I'm about to go into a meeting. I'm really scared. Or hey, can you do this before I show it to my boss? That's really super cool. So let's start out with that 5 weeks of like campus tour, that 1 week
days,
campus tour. People keep asking about the Facebook group. You do not have to be on Facebook to join. I know it asks for a Facebook name. Just put anything in there. You want to break that down for everybody, Jill?
Yeah. So we have a lot of activities, like things throughout the week, because there's actually a lot going on. I give away prizes. I do all kinds of stuff. We have a lot of things that are there if you show up live. In order to show up live, you do have to be in the Facebook group. We are doing it through Facebook. It's not on YouTube or anything like that. However, you can watch the replays. So if you're not on Facebook, that's okay. Just put in where it says Facebook name, just say do not have Facebook or no Facebook or something like that. And then what will happen is you'll get on our email list with getting the replay links. So every day we'll send out the link so that you can still watch the videos. You're just not able to participate live with us, but you can still watch all the replays and get all the information and everything. So it's fine if you're not on Facebook. Either way, we'll get it out to you.
Okay. Someone else mentioned that there's a program scholarship that's given out. Do you have to be on Facebook?
You do have to be on Facebook. Yeah, because that is if you join us live, and because we use Facebook Live. So in order to be eligible for any kind of prizes, you do have to be on there. But you can still get the information if you're not on Facebook.
All right. So go ahead and reactivate your Facebook for these purposes only, right? The good thing about Facebook is it's free. Right? That is free. And if it's going to get you a 9-month scholarship, then come on.
Absolutely. I think you can even turn off your news feed and just focus on if you got options if you're not interested.
Don't go on there looking for your ex-boyfriend or nothing like that. I love it. Some people are saying that they just signed up. I'm really excited for you guys to go and really get to know Jill and really get to know what she's been doing and get under the hood of what instructional design is. Like she said, during that 1 week, she's going to show you the software that people use. And I know people get so scared when they hear the word software or technology.
Yeah.
Guys, the fact that you're here lets me know that you know how to use technology. All right. So we've been using technology for the last at least 20 years. You done signed up for MySpace, AOL, Facebook. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys have signed up. You've been in and out of software, and all of us have been hanging out in teams.
Yeah. And if you did it the last couple years, you definitely got into it.
Right, exactly. So these are things that you can learn how to do. And I've learned new software over the years too. I'd say now more than ever, it's so much easier to learn software because there's this whole field of user experience that makes it easier for people to be able to kind of jump into software to use it. So she's going to show you the software used. She's going to talk about how people build portfolios. She's going to talk about where people get jobs, and you get to talk to people that have transitioned into the role, which are people who are trying to do or have done exactly what you're trying to do, which I think is really
just in the last year or two, right? So it's recent. Like, it's not people that transitioned 20 years ago like me. I want you guys to hear from people who just did it recently that come from similar backgrounds.
Yeah. So somebody just asked again, do you have to have social media? You're not required to have any social media, but if you want to participate live and you want to interact live, being in the Facebook group is going to be beneficial to you. And if you want to win the scholarship, being in Facebook is beneficial. Yeah, but all of the recordings will be available. You can, rewatch. Just you can't do the live stuff if you're not on Facebook. That's it. All right. I'm going to drop the link again. Do you guys have any more questions for Jill? I see a lot of people have signed up. So excited for you. It's funny. I say this every time, but literally every time we do this, I'm like, she gonna make me move into instructional design.
We got room for you. Come on.
I told you my boss watched a video like last year we did, and even she was like, should I do this? We were both like, maybe we should do this.
Well, it's funny. There's somebody that's in my program, and she was just saying the other day something about she's looking for a job and she's getting ready to quit, and somebody said, do they know at your job that you're leaving yet? Because she hasn't found a job yet. And she said, actually, my boss is in this program too. She said, oh, wow.
That was gonna be me and my boss. That was gonna be us. She wasn't my boss at the time. This was a while ago. Just because it's so, I absolutely love my job. I have so much flexibility. I've been with the company for about 4 years, but I've been working with these people for about 9 years. So love my job. But every time we have this conversation, it's like, man, there's just so much opportunity here. It seems so cool. And just the idea of being able to do something new and have a new adventure. I think that's what attracted both of us.
Yeah.
We really like where we work. So that's the only reason I have not done it.
Kind of add to their skill set, right? Yeah. Like, we have people in the program that are also like getting Scrum Master certifications and all kinds of other stuff in addition to instructional design, because they're just kind of adding to their skill set. So
I say that to say it's tough to even get me interested in doing anything other than what I'm doing right now. Because I again really love the company I work for, I love the people I work with. So this is so good that it's got me like, should I maybe? But yeah, I'd say if I were going to do something different, this would probably be it, because it seems like such a great industry to be in. And it seems I love options. I love the idea that you can decide if I want to be a W-2 employee, if I want to be a contractor, or if I want to do this as a freelancer. And then even then you've got more decisions. If I'm a contractor / freelancer, how much work do I want to take on? I remember you used to stack your work so that you could be off for the summer. Right? Yep. Which is pretty dope, right? So I'm gonna stack my work, I'm gonna get this money and just work, 10 months out of the year. And for 2 months, I'm just gonna travel with my kid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can do that. You just kind of time your contracts right, or just have it real light to where maybe you have 3 or 4 during the year, and then while you're gone, you just have 1. And it might be part-time. So it's just a couple hours a week. So sometimes I do that too. And I know one time I was gone and I had, at that time, a lot of companies were still mailing checks. So it wasn't so digital like it is now. And so my checks were stacked, like things were stacking in my mailbox because they always pay in a delay. But once you get in the routine of it, it's fine, right? Because you're always getting a paycheck. And I remember coming back, we were gone for like 5 weeks, and I had this stack of checks, and it was probably close to like $100,000 worth of checks. And I had never had that many at once because, of course, you cash them as you go. And I was like, I just came back from vacation to this. Like, what?
I feel like I remember this. I feel like I remember you posted about this. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, like I had never seen that many at once because I always like, boom, I get it, put it in the bank, put it in the bank, put it in the bank. And I was like, I had like 6 of them sitting there. And I was like, wow, like who comes back from vacation for that much just sitting in their mailbox?
Not me. Never happened. That has never happened to me. Before we go, Jill, I want to have a keep it real moment though. One of the things I always ask in job interviews is, what are the most challenging parts of this role? Like, what would make me sweat every day? What are the things I wouldn't like about this role? Why don't we keep it real with the folks? Like, what is it that would be challenging in the instructional design space?
So I think one of the things that's challenging sometimes is you're dealing with people, right? So people, right?
It's
I mean, let's be real. People can be like. So one of the things that is frustrating sometimes is that, as I was saying earlier, you're not an expert in the topic. You're usually working with a subject matter expert. That's what we call them. They're the person who knows the content. They don't know how to deliver it the best way, but they know the content. Well, sometimes those people are like, I got a day job. Like, my job is not to give you content for your training. I got to do the thing that I'm good at. That's what my job is, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes it can be difficult because you're not the subject matter expert to get what you need from these people. And sometimes you're sending multiple emails and you're having to escalate things and you're like, okay, well, how am I supposed to do this if I can't get the material? Other times you work with amazing people who are like there ready to help you. Sometimes, but a lot of times people are like, I have a job to do, you're in my way. Like,
so having to depend on other folks to get you
there. Having to depend on people. I would say that's probably one of the most challenging things. In the beginning, I would say, in the beginning, it's the learning curve of just learning it, right? Like, that's anything.
Yeah.
But once you get past that, like doing the job, the other thing too is you have to be somebody who, especially in project work on contracts, project work on, it happens sometimes too in full-time work as well. But there's a lot of change happening. So sometimes companies will scrap projects. Like, you might be working on something and they're like, oh, never mind, we're going a different direction. I mean, they still paid you for what you did, but they're just like pivoting. Or like all of a sudden, like this is the one frustrating thing. Timelines never happen as they're supposed to. So if you're one of those people that's like, okay, this is what we're supposed to do. You're supposed to get me this by this date. It never happens. Timelines get blown out of the water. Everything changes. Everything pivots. So you got to be somebody who's adaptable. Like we were saying earlier, adaptable to change, adaptable to flexibility. Yeah. If you are not, like, you will get frustrated easily. Also, you can't be a perfectionist in this field because the deliverables you're creating go through iterations. There's a first draft, there's a second draft. The first draft is not your final. You're going to get that thing torn up all the time because that happens. You got to be able to receive feedback. So some of those things I think are like points of frustration for certain personalities, depending on how you normally work.
I love it. So I actually have this challenge in my field as well. So I work in software implementations, and a lot of times we're getting requirements from the business, right? From business needs, subject matter experts, and they're taking forever to get us what they need, right? They're going to take forever to get us our data, take forever to get us our info. And then they'll tell us how they want something and we'll go build it. And they're like, oh no, never mind. We don't want it like that. Right.
Yeah.
And so change is a thing. Like, people may tell you they want it this way and you show it to them and they want to scrap that, or they want to change something that they asked for. And my teams get really frustrated too. So before you even get into this field, I'm going to give you the pep talk that I give to them. Your only response is, do you want fries with that? If they are paying you, they can supersize that mug. They can change out the burger.
Security, right? You're still
a quarter pounder. They can say, you know what? I ordered an egg McMuffin, but what I really want is a double cheeseburger. Do you want fries with that? As long as they are paying you, they can make whatever change they want. So don't take it personal. Don't be mad. Like, change can't be frustrating. It can only be frustrating if they say, it's only frustrating to me if, like, they don't agree that they made a change in the first place. That's the only time it's frustrating to me.
Yeah.
If you want to change, cool. Do you want fries?
They're like, I need that change tomorrow because I screwed up everything else and now we're out of time. So I need that tomorrow. That's
Yeah.
the time when it gets really frustrating, when people don't understand that, like, no, you changed this. You're gonna have to wait now. It's not going to be done by the deadline, which does happen occasionally too. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's job security. Like, they're going to keep paying you, right? Like,
that is what we like to call a change request.
Longer.
Yeah, so I just wanted to have that keep it real moment, because we've been talking about all the great things about instructional design. There are a lot of great benefits to this career, but like every job, there's some things that you won't like, right? There's some things that are going to be challenging. There's some things that'll be like, oh, again. So looking forward to hearing people coming back on my page and telling me, you know, that they enjoyed that 1 week mini boot camp, that 1 week intro, and that they've enrolled in your course and that they're about to change careers. I think what I really can't wait for is to hear the success stories on the other end of this, and people saying, you know, I landed a job in instructional design. I'm making 40,000 more than I used to make, or making 20, 30,000 more than I used to make. And I can, you know, now move to Portugal or move to Spain or move to Mexico like I wanted to, or travel with my kids more. So I'm very excited to hear those. I cannot wait to hear those success stories. Thank you guys for coming to hang out with me and my girl, Jill.
Yeah, and Jill, thanks for being here. Look forward to seeing as many of you as possible next week. Whoever's interested, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And Jill, you know, just again, thank you. I cannot thank you enough for making the decision and the choice to open up people's eyes to this. Because you could have just kept your head down, making this good money, doing instructional design, traveling the world, doing your thing, right? But you took it upon yourself to say, you know what, this is something that could benefit a lot of other people, and put that course together. So I really appreciate you doing that. I really appreciate you being of service to people, and like really changing people's lives.
I mean, I feel like I found, you know, I've what I'm supposed to be doing, because you see people's lives being changed. Like it's really amazing. I love it.
Awesome. All right. Have a great Sunday, all of you, and take care.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.